trying to alert people that, you know, they were real and that there was some kind of ulterior motive or agenda behind them. And of course, you know, people back then really didn't want to hear it and, you know, wanted nothing to do with it. You know, were trying to say that, oh, they're just contrails. Of course, contrails can't form at the low altitudes that we witness chemtrails being sprayed at. But as to what the purpose of them are, I would say that's still indefinite, but there's a lot of speculation and a lot of possibilities as to what they really could be being used for. Of course, geoengineering is one of them, actually affecting the quality and content of the atmosphere for weather modification, possibly, and also for, I think one of the reasons is to attempt to ionize or plasmify the atmosphere through the types of metals that they're spraying, probably to make it more conductive for certain other kinds of wave technologies that they want to send more easily through the atmosphere, whether that be for weather modification purposes, weaponization, or even possibly mind control applications. You know, anyone's guess is probably as good as another, because we don't have any definitive information on it. But, you know, whole governments now have come out and declassified documents on geoengineering purposes of chemtrails, of you know, this aerosol spraying. Of course, they don't call it chemtrails, but so it's pretty much out in the open. It's not like something that people can deny is being done. The question is, what are the ulterior motives or the nefarious purposes that they may be using this covert technology for?
Now, see, the thing is that I think myself that even if people do figure it out, the majority of the masses, it's the question isn't, okay, what's being done? It's basically, are people willing enough to step up to the plate and to change things? I mean, you know, the whole mind control situation. I mean, do you hold the media accountable for especially weathermen and that know what's going on? Do you think that they're accountable for this?
Of course, they're completely complicit in the whole thing, because they're not doing their job and telling the public what they need to know to be informed as to whether they even want this being done. You know, and the decision is being made just unilaterally by, you know, military. Basically, I mean, this is a military operation, obviously. They're not commercial jets spraying this stuff. They're not private jets. They're military jets. So, you know, that decision is being made without any public information. It's being made without public consent. You know, and it's all obviously a black operation. It's a black ops project that's being funded with, you know, taxes taken, confiscated by the American people, and they're not even allowed to know what that money is being used for.
Now, Mark, you were an ex-priest of the Satanic Church, right?
Church of Satan under Anton LaVey, yes.
Under Anton LaVey?
Yeah.
Now, my question to you is, you have experience in what's going on. So, how? I mean, we know that the elite is evil. I mean, they're. I watched a lot of your videos, and you've said that they kind of refer to us as the dead.
Sure.
Like we're just trash to them. Now, are they
less than trash? They consider it completely dead matter. They consider people completely dead matter, because if they're not actually exercising their consciousness, meaning that they're not really using their thoughts to gain intelligence, they're not using their emotions in an activated way, that of truly caring about what's going on in the world that they live in, and they're not motivated to action, then by all intents and purposes, all three modes of their consciousness are completely inert or dead.
But isn't it their fault of this, though? Because they're mind controlling us. they're dumbing us down via food, via air, via water.
Well,
so it's their fault.
That is going on, but they don't look at it that way. They look at it like if the human population can't exert a little bit of will to change themselves.
Oh man, there it is.
Then then they're not really they're not worth anything. They're not really worthy of anything but mistreatment and contempt.
So basically, it's kind of like they're weeding out the strong from the weak, maybe.
It's one way of looking at it, that those who will to survive this and get past what they're doing will be the ones who emerge on the other side, and everybody will go by the wayside.
Right.
But, I think they just look at it as they'll do anything that they have to maintain their hegemony.
Now, when we get into Stargates and stuff like that, do you think that they want the power to themselves?
Oh, of course. I mean, I think that's something that they've obviously known about since the ancient past, and that's covert technology about how civilizations basically travel through space without going through the vast distances in between, and that's something that they're holding tight to their chest so that nobody really understands that it's even possible to travel in that way.
Well, I understand that. So, what happens to the ones that are with this knowledge? Will we be killed, or what? Are they going to come after us?
No, it's all about controlling perception. I mean, we understand that that's possible because our minds are open to possibilities other than what mainstream media and mainstream quote unquote science will tell people is real.
Right.
So, the reason most people aren't even open to that potential is because their minds are closed down to other possibilities, and they only accept as real what the mainstream illusion is pumping out into their mind on a daily basis.
I agree. I mean, it's just I don't know. I mean, do you believe that other galactic races have a hand in this?
Well, this is something I haven't really gotten much into on what on earth is happening, or really any of my material that I put forward publicly.
Right.
I'm probably going to begin to start talking about subject matter such as this in the near future, after I work my way completely through the solutions section on my radio show. But there's no question about it that there are agendas of non-human entities involved in this whole drama.
Right.
I'll just say that for now and leave it at that.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of underground bases?
Of course.
Have you ever heard of people being abducted by aliens?
Of course. I know someone personally.
Well, now you know 2 people.
More than 2.
So, I mean, millions and millions and millions of people are being abducted by these so-called grays and stuff like that. I mean, I myself actually think that the United States and world governments have these saucer technology themselves. Like, we actually have the technology and are flying these things ourselves. But I wonder, man. I wonder if the elite actually sold us the hell out. They said, okay, you can take a couple herd of cattle and mess with their DNA, just give us some tech.
Why not? I mean, why wouldn't that be a possibility? I mean, considering what they already think of the general population, of course.
They think we're right. We're trash
it's a possibility, absolutely.
What are your views on World War III? What do you think is going to happen with that?
I think they're trying to foment it as quickly as they possibly can because they love chaos management. That's their number one way that they control people and come out on top of any given scenario.
Right.
They manage chaos. They create the chaos and then basically offer the solution to the chaos. And in that process of managing that chaos, they gain a tactical advantage and basically a power differential.
So it's kind of like a problem reaction solution?
Exactly.
I mean, I kind of see it as the only way out of this is through love and light and self-empowerment. How do you feel about self-empowerment and each of us understanding that we're,
I think that ultimately comes through knowledge of truth. And if someone is shut down to taking that in because they're not open-minded, then they're in a lot of trouble. But if we open up our minds and our hearts and accept truth into our being, then from there anything is possible because our imagination will be activated. We can imagine our way out of any given scenario that might happen to be unpleasant or that we may be creating ourselves. And ultimately, through that knowledge, when we apply it in the world, that converts it into true wisdom, and that is the solution. Acting in harmony with truth and natural law. And when we do that, there's nothing that can stop our forward progress.
I agree. Now, Mark, what made you change? I mean, what made you go from the Church of Satan to doing what you're doing now? I mean, I had an ex-girlfriend. Let's just leave it at that. And her family was, I would say, dabbled in the dark side. So, I just want to know what made you were a priest, and it takes a lot to become a priest, to be trusted to become a priest in the Church of Satan. And what gave you the enlightenment? What enlightened you to change your mind to say, you know what, I'm gonna, be a service humanity in truth and love?
Well, people always ask this, and I think they're looking for some, cosmic profound answer.
Right.
And the answer may shock a lot of people, but the answer of what actually did that, what motivated me to change in that capacity, is unimaginably large amounts of suffering.
Right.
Suffering that got so intense that there were only two places that I could have really gone: a jail cell or the grave.
Right.
And eventually, that amount of intense suffering forced me to take a look at myself again and develop some true self-respect, which is what the word respect means, to look at again.
Right.
And in doing that, I had to, confront who I was and basically decide, is it me that's generating this in my own life because of my attachments to the belief systems that I have?
Right.
And when I did that, that's when I was able to start releasing that attachment, letting go of those completely inaccurate and manipulated belief systems that I had held on to previously in my life. And when I let go of that attachment, everything kind of fell into place from there, I guess you could say.
Right.
And the quality of my life improved dramatically.
Well, I commend you, and a lot of others do, who see what you're doing now and see where you are as far as the amount of information that you pump out to people, so that way they can, wake up.
Sure. That's what it's all about, is sharing. Once I tell people that's most certainly not the end. That's the beginning.
Right.
Then it's about putting that out there for others to take in.
Right. And I think things happen for a reason, as weird as that may sound, but a lot of people, they say, oh, my life, I was beat as a kid, or I was poor as a kid, or I had this done, or I was in this gang or in that gang. And I think that it's a learning experience of the soul to have that hit you early on, to see how, if you make it past that.
Right.
Look, my life, perfect example. I had nothing, wooden spoon, I guess you'd say, and yet I've been to Hawaii, lived in Hawaii. I've done a lot of things, and here I am doing what I'm doing, and I love the fact of what I've been through, because it's hard being a truther. It's lonely it's a lonely road, man, because no one gives a shit. No one cares, and because we're the minority, right? Yeah. So, I think you have to be strong in this line of work. You have to, and if you're not strong when you get in, it'll make you strong quick. Is there any hope for humanity? And before you answer this question, he's laughing. Before you answer this question, I want to say, I look at, let's take this out here. Here's your lady friend. How are you, miss? What's your name?
Hi, my name is Barb.
All right, Barb.
Yes.
You believe in what we're talking about?
100%.
Okay, now let's take a look around here. Let's take a look here. This is Philadelphia. Okay.
Yep.
How many millions of people do you think are in Philadelphia, Mark?
Within the city proper, probably less than 2 million, but I would say in the whole metropolitan region, there's probably a little over 4 million.
A little 4 million, right?
Yeah, in the whole metropolitan area.
How many people do you think, real quick, are asleep in the inner city of Philadelphia?
Yeah.
What's the percentage?
Over 90%.
90%?
Over 95%.
What's your percentage?
I don't know about the percent, but it's very high, because all the events we go to, you see the same group of people going to all the events, doing the activism, going to UFO meetings,
same small group.
Going to the Fed rallies. It's the same small group. We all basically know each other, and you might get one or two people new here and there, but overall, it's
the committed core group.
Minimal, very minimal. Yeah, that people that are willing to give their time and to. I mean, most people that I see, even they're supposedly intelligent people.
Right.
I work with doctors, nurses.
You bring up chemtrails or vaccines, they don't know nothing.
And sometimes they're a little interested, but then they're like, yeah, well, I don't want to know about that. I already have enough problems to think about.
Right.
I don't, they just. And then I say, well, what about you have children and everything?
Right.
Yeah, but I just rather watch TV and American Idol's on. I mean, these are literally things that they've said to me. So it's just really scary that it's such a big city and there's so little amount of people that are really in the know.
Now, see, this is for our female viewers that are going to watch this. You have a female here that she's I'm guessing that you're involved. You know, you know
very much so.
You know a lot about what's going on.
Sure.
What's your advice to some of the females who they look in the truth movement and they don't see a lot of women doing, not a lot.
Yeah, there's not a lot of women. The women that are out there are very passionate about it, but there's not a lot of women, and we really could use more women because I think women can be very influential.
Right.
I mean, they're
the female essence.
Yes, I mean the sacred feminine. I mean, the influence women can have is so important, and yet they seem to be the most affected by fear, and that's what they use to control people. When you're in a state of fear, you're very you're in a suggestible state, and most women I see are very afraid. They say, oh, you know, we want the military to protect us, and we're willing to give up our freedoms to be protected and to be safe. And they can really influence a lot of these men too, like, you know, men that are maybe policemen or military. They can influence their sons and husbands not to join up to these groups. And, you know, really I think women need to educate themselves more. I think they're accepting their role of, you know, just put on some makeup and look good and don't worry about it.
Just live the normal.
Just get married and, you know, do your... Now, I'm not saying you can't do all those things too if you like, but you really just need to educate yourself. And I think women really need to step up.
Right.
I think they're really, you know, not fulfilling their role.
Well, hopefully this message, and I'm planning on hitting at least 200,000-300,000 people, so we'll see what happens. Hey,
That's great advice, Barb.
Get all my sisters out there.
We have to.
Really.
We have to. And I'll tell you what now, the thing is this, is that all these people that you guys think, and I myself think are asleep, is there hope for humanity? I mean, because with the water, with the air, with everything you're hitting us with, I mean, it would take... I went publicly on Facebook too. And I went publicly on Facebook too, okay? And I said it would take a massive uprising all at once to stop this shit.
I know.
So again,
it's going to take an enormous act of will, and I don't want to blow smoke up anybody's rear end and tell them what they want to hear. So what can be done is one thing, but what will be done is altogether different. And I would say I would leave it at that. It's a matter of what people will into existence. It's a matter of will. You know, is it possible? Yes, it is possible. Will people will it into existence? That's up to them. I can't say it. I can't say.
But what I'm saying is the way things are looking now with all the pollution and the poison and the vaccines. I don't think it's going to happen.
If the current trend continues, we're going to meet cataclysm. We're going to meet a cataclysmic end.
That's
unless a reversal in the people's underlying way of thinking, their paradigm shifts. If that paradigm way of perceiving reality does not change, then we're in for a rough ride. But if it does, we can turn this place completely around, 180 degrees. It is possible.
Now have you guys ever heard of the Great Awakening, the Great Shift that's supposed to happen?
Sure.
You guys heard of this, right?
I was just talking about it last night, actually, because I was saying, you know, these people, or, you know, whatever group, whatever beings they are, that have gotten us into this state by trying to...
Reptilians. Excuse me. Draconians.
Perhaps, very much so. They've had, you know, more than generations. They've been doing this for centuries. And I said, well, how can we don't have much time left. How can we make up for this? So I was thinking that, like, with the shift of the ages, you know, going into the age of Aquarius, maybe that's part of the way that, you know, that's the only hope we might have, that more information is coming at people quicker. Before they would have to take, you know, say way back in time, you know, you'd have to get your information across, you might have to send someone on a horse or, you know, so it took a long time to get information. Now with an internet, like your video you said, you post that, and I mean, you don't
this
even
is going
know
everywhere.
How many people
after I'm done doing this, I'm making flyers. I'm going door to door.
On our side, and that's the main thing we have to do. That's why, and of course, we obviously are hopeful. Otherwise, Mark and I wouldn't be spending our time doing this.
Well, you know what? I believe, first of all, that, you know, we each individual, like me, yourself, and Mark, you know, we have our own experiences, our own manifestations through thought, if you want to call it that we go through, our own reality that we have. So when we die, this what we're doing now, what me, you, Mark, everyone's doing now, you know, that takes us to a different place. So what's going on in this world right now, as bad as it seems, this is a dimension, this is a place that we're living in. That's not to say that there's other existences on this planet where it could be paradise.
Yeah.
What I think it is that not all reptilians are evil, so I just want to throw that out there. I don't think they're all evil. I'm just saying that there is a powerhouse, the Draconian powerhouse is a badass.
Yes.
And they're to be respected in some way for that. So you can't just look at light and say, oh, love and light, fucking light. No, you have to, listen, you have to look at the dark side and learn from it.
Exactly.
Because if you don't learn from the dark side, you're not going to be able to fight the dark side.
Right.
I found this out early on, by the way.
That's very true. Too many people are just,
this is real talk.
Look at the light, but if you look at the light,
this is real talk.
You're blinded by the light.
This is real talk.
You can't only just look at the lights. And the, I mean, of course, it's good to have that as, to be aware that there is.
Yeah.
But you have to look into the darkness and, like you say, learn from it. And like you said, respect the way
you have to
look at the number they've done on us, on the world. You know,
the only way that you can ever really steel yourself, strengthen yourself against all of that darkness and manipulation is to understand it deeply, understand deeply how it operates, to have those effects on people's minds. Then you can protect yourself against it.
Yeah.
So not looking at it, you're never going to understand its methodology, and therefore you're going to be susceptible to it.
Right. And this is true. And are you guys a firm believer that we all manifest our own reality through thought?
We collectively, all of us, manifest the shared reality together through our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. Right. And ultimately, that does start with thought. Yes.
It all starts through thought. I think, and this is just me, I think that the elite, as we call them, the few, are working with these other dimensional beings who are a lot more... Let me get this shit straight, because I'm just going to lay it all out here in this car right now. Because this is what I'm about. This is what I do. I'm buck wild in Philly.
All right.
And you guys watch my videos, you know who I am. Let's not all fool each other. We all know who each other are. So anyways, this is what it's about. The Draconians are working with the humans, and some of these humans may be hybrids themselves. I don't know that for a fact. But you think so?
Yes.
And I know this. I know that they want all the power for themselves. And they're scared shitless of us. Do you know why they're scared shitless of us? Because we were seeded here. And we have a whole buttload of DNA in us from all kinds. So we didn't come from monkeys. Black people didn't come from monkeys. None of that junk. So they're scared shitless of us because right now we outnumber them.
Yes.
And if we unlock, people say, oh, when we unlock our true potential, what does that mean? That means that, you have to unlock your pineal gland. You have to you have to get in your mind, and when you unlock that true power, we can crush them.
That's true.
They are so scared. So what they're doing is they're catering to the elite. And they're saying, look, we'll promise you this, and this gives you gadgets, and this power. You, your family, your family's family. If you cut down the population to about 1 million, you guys can rule.
Right.
But really what's going to happen is these Draconian ones, they're going to say, you know what, when the population is cut down, and you think you have, guess what, motherfucker?
Yeah.
We're going to kill you and your family, and just leave enough of you to worship us.
I believe that theory. I think that's a great...
This is real.
Well said.
How I feel.
Well said.
This is real shit.
You're right.
They are so afraid of us.
Yeah.
And I know this.
Yes.
All the people following this entire dark agenda, it's like their mental attitude is, well, we'll feed everybody to the big beast as long as we get to be fed to it last. I mean, think about how insane that is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And people don't realize their true potential and that the power that we have. And we've been so often told that nothing I can do, you can't fight City Hall, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
And people just sit back and take it. And really, especially if we all join together, we have so much power, and people don't see that.
Right.
And that's what they're relying on. And they don't want us waking up, like you said. I mean, they're putting fluoride in the water. That blocks your pineal gland.
This is why they're vaccinating our goddamn kids, because they know.
Like
they know.
All the kids are on these different drugs now. I mean, the foods are horrible. They're genetically altering the foods. And, they want people to stay in this dull, dumbed down state. They don't want us to wake up.
They want to keep a certain number of people asleep, because if the number of truly awake individuals reaches a certain number, see, the shift is a quantum shift, so it has to reach that tipping point where that critical mass number for it to really go viral, for it to really have a quantum effect on the whole.
Right.
They're trying desperately to maintain that number of really awake people under that quantum shift value, or that tipping point value.
Yeah, that's what they're relying on.
And you know, it all comes down to fear. It's like one big melting pot of fear. They're scared of us. We're scared of them. So what is the answer? Ultimately, is love the highest vibration in the universe?
Yes.
It is?
100%.
I mean, think about it.
And that's the opposite. Fear and love. I believe that those are opposites, not love and hate, but love and fear.
Right.
And they constantly are bombarding people with, things to keep them in that state of fear. And when you're afraid, you're open to any suggestions that they'll tell you. So you follow their orders. And that's what they're relying on, keeping people in that state of fear. So the answer is to love and to trust yourself and your strength, your inner strength, know yourself, and to get out there and, not be afraid anymore.
Yeah, get off your goddamn easy chair.
Act, right.
Get off your easy chair and act.
Get out there and do something. Just do stuff. Do something.
That's what the real opposite of fear is: courage to act.
Right.
Because, courage isn't even necessarily the absence of fear. Right. I look at it as the polar opposite of fear, because there doesn't have to be an absence of fear to act. Courage is action in spite of fear. Even if fear is present, you're acting anyway.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
And I think that's the dynamic that's needed more than anything else. That is love.
Overcoming your fear.
Caring enough to act, even if you are afraid, is love. That's the deepest expression of love that there is.
Well said.
I look back at the 1700s. Just take that for example. When we had shield and sword. When there was actually honor in the world, which there isn't anymore. So, very, right. So, back then, they didn't pull this shit they pull now, and I'm going to explain why. I believe it's because, we cared back then. We grew our own food. We were still manipulated to some extent by war, fighting each other. But we just fought each other with bows and arrows and stuff like that then. But it was different. It wasn't where they had the control they have now. I think what they did was when I say they, I mean the Draconians and the Lizzies and the elites. But what I'm trying to get here is that they have us now where it's like sit in your easy chair. We'll bring your food to your supermarket. Right, you're comfortable. You don't have to, there's no goddamn communication anymore. Look, if you go on a public transportation bus, everyone's scared to death of each other. Like, I don't want to look at him. I don't want to look at her. You go down the street, you try to hit on a girl, you try to flirt with a girl, she's like, who's that creep?
Yes, I said
hold on, it's true. Now, what they're doing is, what the elite are doing is they are separating us from our basic fundamentals. And them fundamentals are interconnection and communication, community. Now, this is what we had back in those days. We all were together. Me as a man, when I flirt with a woman, and why not throw this out here? This is real talk. So, women want to be flirted with. Not by, a creep, but, if you walk up and you say, hi, how you doing, you're beautiful, and stuff like that.
Flattering, sure.
Right. So, you say, how you doing, and all that, and the reason women turn around and they say, okay, well, they're quick to say, oh my god, they don't know what to do. Most women nowadays aren't used to having guys in broad daylight come up and say, hey, you look really good today.
Well, even just as much as, I noticed this, I had said this a while back, I used to take long walks, I would walk home from work, and it was about an hour and a half walk. And I would just, be walking by in the morning, and I noticed, saying hi or making
eye contact. It's crazy.
I said that even as a woman, women looked away from even a woman just looking at. I said that to Mark. I said most of the women I see walking are really afraid, even of another woman. They won't. And you'll make eye contact. Some people are very busy and businessmen and running around. They don't look at you. But most of the people, if you look at them, they'll give you a little nod. The women I noticed, even to another woman, they would look away. And
no shit.
I had said that to Mark, that they seem very afraid.
You know what, though? I think when it comes to understanding the elite, when it comes to understanding the Illuminati, the governments, whatever, any different dimensional beings, whatever, you have to understand, like I said, the dark side. You have to. When I first had my encounter encounter with another dimensional being. I wanted to understand where they ate at, where they shat shit at, how you walk, how you talk. I want to get to understand this powerhouse that's behind the scenes and trying to, that is influencing humanity. And when I did that, then I wanted to understand humans. I wanted to see how we tick, how we think, what's in our minds. Why are people the way they are? Why are people mind manipulated the way they are? And the reason that you have to do that is because once you understand the enemy, you have to understand humanity. Because then when you understand humanity, you can awaken humanity, because you cannot awaken friggin' humanity if you don't know how they click.
That's why I think they're so good at manipulating us.
Right.
Because they understand how the brain works.
Yes. They do. Yes. They do.
That's why we're susceptible, because we don't even know what, like you said, makes us tick, and they do.
Can you hold this up quick on me?
Sure can.
Just like that. So, this is, again, Paul Wesley, a.k.a. Prince True Chaser, and I'm with Mark Passio today, and our good friend Barb. Me and Barb just met, but and we're here today. You know, I couldn't resist to do the interview in a coffee shop or anything, because that's the way I am. We're in the car, and you know, I just broke out the camera and I said, let's just get it on. You know, it's going to be.
We're on our way to Haverford College to see Rupert Sheldrake speak.
Yes. Are you going to speak today, Mark?
No
speaking today.
No, just Rupert Sheldrake.
And that's where we're going to go. We're on our way. And I just want to say, you know, awaken your mind, and this is real. This is real talk. And, you know, Barb will tell you the things she has to share, and of course Mark will. And pay attention to this. Share this with everyone you know. All right, back to the interview. So, you know, when I first started out, you know, everyone said, oh, you know, well, you're crazy and this and this. And I think that's the general fear of truth. And, you know, whether it's and the Fed, or whether it's, you know, deeper down into the rabbit hole, or what it is, it's just the fear that people, you know. I've had a girl, she texted me and she says to me, she said, Paul, they're spraying bad on us, the chemtrails in South Philly today. And I said, I know. I said, they start off in South Philly around 6:30ish, and then they work their way up North Philly. But no one's got the balls to get off their easy chair to make a difference. I mean, and what is it going to take?
And also, what about the people, the pilots that are doing this? I mean,
I don't think they're human.
You know, I don't think they're human. Or are they being threatened, or are they being paid so much?
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is money.
I think they're human. They're just not good humans.
Yeah.
You think they're human? They're just not. Are they mind controlled humans, Mark?
In a lot of
Controlled
ways,
by money, most likely.
But in a lot of other ways, they just don't care.
You might be right on that.
People will do anything for enough money. I mean, not all people, but a good amount of people will. I mean, people will murder for money.
Oh, you just really brought something up to me. A good point.
I mean, so I think, you know, if they pay them enough and they don't ask any questions, maybe some of them don't know what they're doing, or maybe they're lied to and said, oh, this is to help people. Who knows what they tell them? But still, that's the people that are actually doing it. So, you know, you got to confront the people that are taking the action, you know?
I have a real quick question for Mark. Mark, can you put this in your hand? You have a free hand?
I don't right now.
All right, I'm just going to raise this to the camera here. This is a $1 bill right here. Do you see that, Barb?
Yep, I do.
See that $1 bill?
I do.
Mark, do you see that? That $1 bill?
Yes.
What does that mean to you, Mark? What does that piece of paper I just put in front of your face mean to you?
Yeah, a lot of symbology on it.
So
and,
I mean,
and the dollar, especially, because that's the one that people.
Do you think that the dollar is their power over us all?
Mental manipulation through symbols, through archetypal symbols. Absolutely.
Fear.
It would take me hours to break it down. All the symbolism on that. I've actually done it on my radio show extensively in the podcast that I've done on symbolism. But essentially, they're feeding us a proxy of enlightenment, balance, and love energy through that $1 bill because of the color and the symbols that are on it, the frequency emitted by the color and the symbols that they put all over it. Yep.
That's the color green?
Absolutely.
Is there is there ever going to become a day where they're just going to abolish money, or what?
Well, maybe. They want to get to
they won't have the paper money.
Right.
I think that is their goal.
They want to get to a cashless society for sure.
Are they going to microchip us? The RF, what's that? The RFID chip?
I think they're trying. They're trying to. That's their goal, I believe. And definitely, they want to have, you know, no more money. So this way, if they wanted to cut you off, you know, they could just, you know, flip a switch and you're.
Well, I heard they're going to start saying that if you don't get chipped, you're not going to get food stamps, and if you don't get chipped, you're not going to get that.
Electronic currency will allow for much greater control over the population, because if anybody basically steps out of line and does something that the controllers of that currency don't want them to be doing, they could simply be that their ability to engage in that currency can just simply be cut off and stopped, and then they really won't even be able to interact in society in any traditional way anymore. And if people are naive enough to let that, you know, come into society and you know, these speed bumps are horrible, and I didn't even go over it very fast at all. I guess you really have to go super slow over it. Again, I lost my train of thought. If people allow that to happen, it's really on them. You know, it's their own issue. It's their own ignorance that's going to allow that system to come in and take over society. They have to say no to that electronic form of control over currency. I mean,
they could be chipping people without people knowing, though.
You know,
I mean, they could be putting in vaccines. I really wonder about vaccines.
I mean, you know, my take is that all money is an illusion, and really, humanity needs to interact with each other without this, you know, differential system called money. You know, which ultimately opens the way up to greed, control, you know, power over others, etc. Most people can't imagine that. Their imaginations are so deadened that they can't even conceive that there could be a possibility of humans interacting with that way. You know, I always ask them, look, how about races traveling the stars? Do you think they're using money? Do you think they budgeted for Visa, you know, for their travels and the craft that they're using to get from here to there?
Like they have Visa.
You know,
but here's the thing, and we're not telling everyone, all our viewers, you know, that you can't have a normal life and go out to the bar and have fun. We're just saying get out there, step it up, and try to make a difference. Look, I go out to the bar and have fun.
Me too.
You know? Yep. So, Mark, you go out to the bar and have fun, Mark?
Absolutely.
Mark, you do?
Yes, I do.
See, here you Mark Passio.
You have to have some fun. You have to balance. You can't have all fun.
Well, we are here.
Not very often, but from time to time.
Mark, can you throw out your website real quick, bro?
WhatOnEarthIsHappening.com.
What on earth is happening.com? That's what I want to know.
Right.
This is Prince True Chaser, and this is part 1 of me and Mark Passio and Barb.
Right on.